Nickal Contender Series, Week 10, the last episode of the season. It's going to be a sad day on Tuesday. Obviously, this show delivered in a major way this season. It's really given us something to look forward to towards the beginning of our weeks. But rest assured, because Dana White's Contender Series, I meant Bo Nickal's Contender Series. Well, I guess that's just for today's episode. DWCS will be back relatively soon. And I don't know if you guys seen what Dana White's been saying about the show. He expects some major growth from the show within the next couple of years. He expects the show to be broadcasted on major ESPN down the line. And of course, this show is without a doubt the number one breeding ground for top level mixed martial artists to work their way into the UFC. We got an interesting card to break down again. The last episode of the season here, Dana White's Contender Series Week 10, headlined by Bo Nickal. Of course, this is the subject of conversation going into this card. A couple other fighters that are intriguing here. Some interesting ones. Some fighters were hard to get tape on. We got some undefeated prospects coming in. Some fighters coming in undefeated that haven't really fought in a while. Some weird type of situations. I'm excited to see how those fighters perform as well. With no further ado, let's jump into this card.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What is up, you guys? So as you know, we're slated for 5 fights on the last card of this season. Of course, that's barring there's no type of fights that fall through. Occasionally, we've seen that happen with the show, with the weigh-ins happening on Monday. If there's something going on with a specific fighter, it's a little bit too short notice for them to throw another fight on the card. Hopefully, that's not the situation. We should have all these fights taking place. I am filming this late Thursday night, so you can expect some line movement to take place, I'm sure, leading up to this fight card. In particularly, you could probably expect Bo Nickal's line to just absolutely continue to explode leading up to Tuesday night, as you guys know how that goes. Really quick, just want to shout out Raul Rose Jr. was one of the fighters to get a contract last week at the age of 17 years old. That is epic. He's going to be the youngest fighter to ever fight inside the octagon, and he was very deserving of getting the contract. If he did not get that contract, I was going to be really upset. You heard the broadcasting team talking about him getting some developmental deal. The hell with that. Get this young buck in the octagon. He's so talented. People don't understand that just because you're 17 years old, that doesn't really sum up everything you are as a fighter. Raul has been fighting since the age of 4, or training since the age of 4. He's been heavily involved in competition and the sport of MMA since his early teens. He's been training and fighting with grown men. And if you guys pulled him up on Tapology, his record also was not exactly indicative of who he is as a fighter. A lot of information came out towards his fight last week, and it actually came out that he actually has a good amount of fights that were not labeled on Tapology or ShareDog. He fought over in Europe, and I was really happy to see him get that contract. I'm excited to see these types of fighters get thrown right into the UFC. You guys know I wasn't happy when Bo Nickal didn't get the contract initially as well. Make it exciting. Throw these guys in there. They're up to the task. So I did want to shout out Raul Rose Jr. there. We had a 3-unit play on him. I grabbed him at -155. Shout out to everybody that rode with me on my official plays. And now we'll go slide over to the first fight of the card, which is going to be taking place in the bantamweight division. Ajim taking on Mateus Mendonça, the undefeated Brazilian who's only 23 years old. He's 9-0 as a pro. Ajim, some of you guys may be familiar with him, fighting out of New York, I believe fighting out of Long Island, training over at Long Island MMA. In fact, 6-1 as a pro. His lone loss, a little bit of a question mark here, a loss to Chris Monteiro. You guys know I am not that high on Chris Monteiro. For those of you guys that tune into the show regularly, I don't believe he's a UFC caliber fighter. He's extremely tough, nothing but respect to him. But that was a fight that Ashiek kind of slowed down later in that fight, and Monteiro was able to take that fight. And he did finish him via strikes as well. So something to take note of. Other than that, Ashiek has impressed me with his toughness and his scrappiness. He's a fighter that's decently well-rounded, and he goes out there. He really tries to land that big shot on you. He's not super technical. When you watch his fights, it's a little bit of he throws kind of loopy shots, kind of wild shots. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a street fight. If you guys know what I'm talking about, he's out there and he's just kind of walking his opponents down, and he's kind of just looping with his shots, just really throwing caution to the wind, just trying to land that big shot. And I think when he fights in up in level competition, a jump up in level of competition with fighters that are more technical in their striking, I think it's going to really start to affect him. I think he's going to get tagged. I'm not so sure about his defense when he's out there just throwing caution to the wind, throwing those big shots out there. Someone that's crisp and technical and has their guard up is going to catch him with the check hook or something like that. Again, he's already been knocked out by Chris Montinho. But that being said, I do enjoy watching him fight. You can pull up a few of his fights on YouTube, and he is an entertaining fella. I'll say that. In his last fight, his opponent tried to rush a takedown on him, and he ended up reversing him. I think he had him in a mounted guillotine choke, I believe it was. And so showing some evolution in his game, showing some sub skills. His opponent, Mateus, 9-0, undefeated. Shows to be a pretty solid fighter here. He's still very young. Has a good ground game. From what I see from him, his BJJ is pretty good, and I'm going to give him the edge in regards to his jiu-jitsu. I think if this goes down to the mat, I think that it's going to favor him. His last fight was in 2020 in October. So we're talking about his last fight was 2 years ago. All right. So a couple subs strung out through his resume here. I like this kid, Ashiek Ajim. And a side note too, Chael's son, and I don't know if he knows him or whatnot. He was kind of funny. I know Chael was actually trying to help him out, because the word was that Ashiek couldn't find any opponents that wanted to fight him. So Chael was actually willing to pay to fly Ashiek out to any promotion that was taking place, wherever it was. Chael was gonna fly him out, pay for him, and all that. That was pretty cool. So I don't know what the deal with that was, but the word was that nobody wanted to fight Ashiek Ajim for a while. So. He has an opportunity here, though, and he's coming into a fight on Dana White's Contender Series with the chance to grab a contract, and he's coming in as an underdog. All right, so we'll pull up the betting line on this fight real quick. I'm going to get to the pick here in a second. Ashiek Ajim is a plus 185, and that's where he opened at. Now, right now, depending on what sportsbook you're looking at, like I said, not a lot of books have opened these lines, so take it with a grain of salt, but he's roughly a plus 225 right now. So, action coming in on Mateus. He hasn't fought in a while, but this kid looks to be pretty impressive. Training at a shoot box, Diego Lima, under Diego Lima out there. You guys know the shoot box fighters are very aggressive. And Mateus is a well-rounded fighter. And, I have a feeling that Mateus is going to kind of take this fight over in the later rounds. Ashiek also puts a lot of energy out there early, and doesn't pace himself the best at times. And you see Mateus messing around with the pads here a little bit. Looks like he shaved the head. I don't know. It looks like he shaved the eyebrows as well. I don't know, man. When I see him, I know he's just messing around. He's just throwing some light kicks. But when I see the floors all sweaty like that, it brings back some nightmares to the teller. I hate those sweaty mats, man. I fractured my ankle messing around, grappling and stuff on these sweaty type of mats. And it is what it is. Obviously, you got to do what you got to do. But I wouldn't want to be grappling or sparring hard on this type of mat here. Just want to throw that out there. So yeah, my pick for this fight, I am going to be taking Mateus Mendonça, Bucau. I know he hasn't fought in a while, but Ashiek Ajim, I like watching him fight. He's a fun fighter to watch, but there's some technical flaws there, and I think he could lose this fight in a couple different ways. He could also win it. Obviously, it's the fight game. If he does catch Mateus with a big shot, or maybe he just kind of overwhelms him. Mateus hasn't been in there in a while. Maybe Ashiek, whose last fight was just 2 months ago, about 3 months ago at this point in time. Maybe he's a little bit more fresh in there, a little bit more confident, but I more so see Mateus being the more technically sound fighter and the better fighter overall. I got to go with him to win the fight there. Give me Mateus by a late round sub. We got two Brazilian flyweight prospects throwing down. We got Raphael Ramos Estevam taking on João Elias Alicate. This guy João Elias has a good amount of experience, 21 professional fights at the mere age of 27 years old, while his opponent, who is 26 years old, and Raphael, is 10-0, undefeated. Raphael Ramos, for whatever reason, he gave me some problems pulling up tape on him. And, I was able to find a couple things on him, but for some reason, he's very much under the radar, doesn't have an IG. A lot of his fights are under the radar, like I said. So a little bit frustrating there, but I did do some digging, got some information on him. João, on the other hand, first and foremost, this is a fighter that has a very solid armbar. He has a good jiu-jitsu overall. He's very tough. There was one fight I was watching of his where the fighter was really, really pressing him, trying to bully him. He stood fundamentally sound. He just continued to defend takedowns, defend shots, eventually reversing his opponent and started to showcase what his jiu-jitsu is about. So a very mentally tough fighter. I like some things that I saw from him. Want to see some more from the striking, obviously, from the striking department. And then his opponent here, who is a Nova União product, 10-0. He's actually had some fights over in LFA, I do believe, right? He does have some fights over in LFA. His last fight was in LFA. Good amount of experience over in Chuto. And he's been fighting guys with decent records too. I mean, his last fight, his opponent Felipe Estevam was undefeated going into that fight. He finished him in the second round. So from what I was able to kind of dig up a little bit, he is a respected fighter over from that camp. And the thing that I do like about this fight here is that he's coming in with a nice size advantage. He's 5'7" with a 69-inch reach compared to the 5'3" frame of João, and I expect that reach to be smaller as well. So you're gonna get a good idea. You're gonna get a good idea of what we're looking at on Monday when you see these guys square off. I do expect Raphael Ramos to be the more solid framed flyweight fighter. He also is a very well-rounded, dangerous fighter. I mean, take a look at his record, at least what he's doing against formidable opponents, finishing fighters with ground and pound, pulling off some subs there too, arm bar, arm triangle choke, rear naked choke. I do like the diversity in his finishes, and defeating guys with 6-1 records, 5-0 records, 9-5, 7-1, 7-0, which if you compare it to some of the other fighters that we've seen on the show, believe it or not, that is above the average. You see a lot of fighters coming in more with victories over guys that are 1-2, 2-2, especially recently, right? So I have a feeling that that Raphael is going to come into this fight looking sharp. I do have a feeling. And now, real quick, also his last fight was in 2021. So it was last year. So it has been a little bit since he's fought as well. And that's something that we talked about, right? A lot of these fighters. So it's been about a year and a month since he's last fought over in LFA. His opponent fought 4 months ago. So another fighter that's coming off a layoff, but who looks very promising. And we have to see how he looks when he steps into the cage. There's a lot of question marks here. I'm willing to bite the bullet there and still take Raphael. I have a feeling that he's going to be doing his thing here. Like I said, I've seen João taken down in some fights. I know he showed to be durable and tough, working his way back to win those fights, but I've seen him taken down. I have a feeling that Raphael gets some takedowns and kind of dominates the fight a little bit there, or takes control of the fight. From a betting perspective, Raphael he opened at a -190, and right now, as of Thursday night, he's a -225. So action coming in on him. So you take that for what it is as well. Maybe there's some word leaking out about the shape he's coming in and how prepared he is for this fight. He's probably been working on his craft over the last year, and still very young at only 26 years old. So I'm sure we'll see the best version of him. Give me him to win the fight there. In the featherweight division, we have Freddie Linares taking on Jack Jenkins. We have the Ecuadorian taking on the Australian here. Listen, I'm gonna be brutally honest. When I was breaking down tape on both of these fighters, I wasn't necessarily impressed. I know they both have respectable records, 8-1, 9-2. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on them, or maybe it was just the fights that I was watching. And I'm more so pointing towards Freddie Linares' way. His striking defense looked absolutely horrid in one of the fights I was watching. And I know it was a little bit earlier in his career, but I'm talking about very, very bad defensive skills coming from Freddie's way. His head was just sitting there, no head movement, and the opponent that he was fighting was very low level, and you could see he was throwing shots at him, and he was just missing Freddie by an inch. But it wasn't like some Anderson Silva type stuff where Silva is purposely having him miss by an inch so he can counter you. I'm talking about he was just not really seeing what was going on, and you saw him get tagged in that fight as well. So, and fighting over in the Mexican scene. Let me see here. I believe he's been extensively fighting over in Mexico. Fighting over in Budo Acento Championship. Yes, taking place in Mexico City. A lot of his fights took place in Mexico City. I mean, listen, the Mexican fight scene is no joke. You guys know how it goes. I mean, they're extremely tough. But some of the fighters that he was fighting against, I mean, 3-1. I believe one of the fights I saw was one of these guys that were more low level too. I mean, fights over 0-2, a fighter 0-2. I mean, I'm not going to go in on these records, but you could see these guys are very green, and they're fighting against other guys that are very green. And when I was watching the tape, you could see it. Jack Jenkins, on the other hand, a little bit more impressed with him. So I hate to have mixed him in to what I was just saying there, but I do like the fact that Jenkins is switching stances constantly. I do like that, and working that back power body kick out of both stances. Seems to be a pretty tough fighter too. I've seen him take some good shots. He's tough. He's durable. He walks forward. I like that. In a fight like this in the small cage where you have to put on a show, these guys are going to clash. I do like backing a fighter like Jack, who's really going to come forward and look to push the pace on his opponent here. Now, from a physical stature, both guys 5'7", no reaches on them, no age in fact on Jack Jenkins either. Jenkins coming over a victory over Rod Costa. I believe he's also an Australian fighter who's trying to work his way up. And victory over Jason Petropoulos. You can pull this fight up on YouTube. Did watch this fight. Jason Petropoulos, a fellow Greek, but a guy that's not on the level, for being honest, right? 4-4. And Jenkins was really giving him trouble in that fight, switching stances on him and just peppering him up there. So, Jenkins looks to be, again, he's a solid dude, a thick dude. He's seems to be pretty well rounded as well. Let's slide through his resume real quick. In those 9-2 fights that he has, the 9-2 record, coming off the decision over Rod Costa, finished Petropoulos via leg kicks. We talked about that fight, so he does like to work in the leg kicks. He has a good amount of finishes mixed in throughout his last 5 fights, right? Or excuse me, here his last 6 fights, where he's won them all. Rear naked choke, another type of choke, punches to a knee, leg kicks, decision. He can do a little bit of it all. It did run into some adversity early in his career, got caught by an armbar by Jesse Medina, but he did redeem that loss there by finishing him. So, and then the loss over Sang-Won Kim, that is a questionable loss as well, but not questionable enough for me to not pick Jack here. I'm picking Jack Jenkins to win this fight. I think that Jack Jenkins is going to give Freddie some problems in the striking department. I do believe that. That's how I see this fight going. I think that Jenkins, yes, he's a little slow with his striking as he's switching stances and mixing things up. He's not a guy that's really quick twitch, really going in there and pressing you in that type of fashion. But he just continues to chug along, if you guys catch my drift. He'll just keep coming, and he'll do his thing. And I think that he will land on Freddie. Now, Freddie, 8-1 with his one loss. I believe it was via a doctor stoppage. So he's never really been starched. And you know what? This might be the fight where he gets finished. So I'll take Jack to win via KO, via TKO. Not an extremely confident pick there, but I'll pick Jack via finish due to strikes in some way or another. And real quick, I mean, pull up the betting line. Opened up at -160, closing right now, or obviously we're not closed yet. We still have days to go, but right now it is around a -235 line, and so people seeing a little bit of what I've been seeing as well, probably when they're breaking down tape on Freddie. In the lightweight division, we have a 6'4" Brit coming into the show. He's facing off with the Brazilian that hasn't fought since 2019. We'll be talking about Vinicius here in a second. But Sam Patterson, the future, he's 9-1 as a pro, fighting out of Walford, England. 6'4". That is a crazy height for the division. He's a fighter that has a very light karate type style. He throws spinning kicks and whatnot, but doesn't really put a lot into it. He's just kind of trying to pepper you up. He's trying to touch you. He's playing that type of game. I do like the fact that he's very defensive to an extent. He kind of really he tries to stay on the outside, which is a benefit to him, of course, with his length and his size. I would love to see him go into this fight and really implement that reach advantage that he has, even with his kicks and whatnot. And we'll see if he can implement that type of style. Now he has been knocked out in devastating fashion. There's a fight. The fight was between him and Hardeep Arah. You can pull that fight up on YouTube as well. You can see him get starched. That was his second pro fight. He got knocked out in the first round. Now, we've talked about Giraffe Syndrome. And, if Giraffe Syndrome was a Nintendo video game back in the day, the main character, the final character, very well may have been Sam Patterson. Like, he may have been like the Bowser of Giraffe Syndrome. Like, you go through all these different Giraffe Syndromes. You go through Macy Chason, you go through James Vick, this and that. And Sam Patterson might be the big old boss waiting at the end for you. So, if you guys don't know what Giraffe Syndrome is, again, it's just a little joke I poke fun at fighters that are a little bit lanky, a little bit slow with their movements, and kind of leave their head up there in a pedestal at times. Sam Patterson does do a little bit of that. But at the same time, I enjoy watching this kid fight, and he does have some things going for him if he's able to implement, like I said, implement his footwork and that distance management. He is a fun fighter to watch, and since that loss, bounced back with a bunch of finishes, knockout, guillotine, split, decision. Then we got a rear naked choke via punches, another decision. Then we had 2 finishes in a row, guillotine, choke, punches, fighting over at Brave CF, respectable promotion. And he's going out there, fighting guys that have respectable records, 18-6, 14-1, 10-6-1. The victory over Kamil Magomedov, that's a respectable victory right there. So I really do believe that Sam Patterson, his game is evolving. And then on the other hand, you got this guy Vinicius, who first and foremost, you watch him hitting the pads over here, training out of King's MMA. Not really too impressed with the striking, to be quite honest. And that's something that going against Sam Patterson, I do believe you have to have that in your back pocket if you want to hang with him. But I do believe that Vinicius is going to more so throw a couple strikes and try to mix things up, make it ugly, and go to the grappling. That's kind of what I see happening. Try to make things just kind of sticky in there and try to pull something off like that. He's 6-1. He does bring the fight. You check out his resume, you see what he's about. He's a fighter that really goes out there and is on the attack. And I think that's the reason why he got an opportunity to fight on the show. Again, he hasn't fought since 2019. I don't know if he has some mutual friends, maybe from King's MMA, that put a word in to the UFC brass and whatnot. But he's an entertaining fighter. He's tough, and does have some jiu-jitsu skills, coming off a couple of submission victories there. And in his last 5 fights, 4 of his victories were via submission, even has a KO, TKO victory also, but taking place almost 5 years ago. I'm going to go with Sam Patterson here. Sam Patterson, this line opened up at -300. Now some money did come in on Vinicius Cenci. He's now Sam Patterson now is a -250. But that could also be because the line opened up a little high, and there's a regularly accessible video on YouTube of Sam Patterson getting absolutely starched by pretty much a nobody. So that might carry a little bit of weight. Maybe the line's a little bit more accurate at -250, or maybe more towards like 220, 210. That was a little high there. And then it also could be because Vinicius is looking to be in good shape, and the word's starting to come out that he's ready to go as well. It's a young fighter that may have some promise behind him. So you keep an eye out for that as well. And I am going to take Sam Patterson to win this fight via decision. I think that he outpoints Vinicius from the outside. That's the route I'm going there. And then we got the main event of Dana White's Contender Series, Bo Nickal taking on Donovan Beard. You guys know, I thought that Bo Nickal should have had the contract right away after that last fight. I mean, he should have got that contract immediately. He's a fighter that instantly jumps into the middleweight division and gives all types of fighters in the top 10 issues, let alone in the middleweight division. And we all know that. If you know what you're watching, you do know that. Now, I won't talk too much about this because I want to put out a little bit of a specific video on Bo Nickal, so that will be coming out to you guys very shortly here before the fight as well. But I think the reason why the UFC didn't give him the contract is because they wanted him to fight again on the season. It was a great way to end the season, right? It keeps people excited about the show, and it was a smart marketing move, in my opinion, by Dana White. And they knew that they had that set up with him. I believe they had something written in writing, and they knew what they were doing here. I truly believe that. In fact, Bo Nickal actually kind of alluded to that in an interview with Ariel Helwani. So Bo Nickal now takes on Donovan Beard. Donovan Beard, a decent fighter. He's 7-1 as a pro, coming off a triangle choke over Miles Lee, who was undefeated at the time, knocked out Tracy Hardy, and then he was defeated in his lone loss 9 months ago. He tasted defeat for the first time against Raheem Forrest. A long frame. He's 6'2". I believe he does have a solid reach. They don't have a reach for him here, but when you watch him fight, he does have some long arms. And this is a pretty cool challenge that he did here. I'm going to have to try this out tomorrow in the whip there. Throwing the shots through the steering wheel, maybe take a glance over at the guy next to you at the light, let him know what's up. If he's riding on the back of your car, riding you too close there, you might have to start throwing some straight shots, throw them right through the steering wheel, just give him a little nod. That's how you kick the weekend off. But I'll tell you guys this, if you don't know about Donovan Beard, he's a good dude. From everything I've heard about the guy, he's a good dude, and he's an extremely confident fighter as well, and I like that. This was a quote from him here. Everybody's been on this dude's jock since they found out the announcement. They ain't gave me no respect. They just looked at me like some Joe Schmo that he's going to step on to get into the UFC, and I'm just chopped liver. I ain't nothing to be reckoned with or nothing. Damn, I don't get no credit. Now that wasn't maybe the best quote from him, because I've heard a couple other things that he said, telling Daniel Cormier, in fact, tweeting Daniel Cormier that Cormier is going to learn the hard way when because he picked against him or whatnot, and he's hype. DC is big on Bo Nickal, and he's telling DC he's gonna learn the hard way when he knocks Bo Nickal out. Listen, that ain't gonna happen, but if you guys want to turn over every stone just in case, I'll let you guys know this. Donovan puts a lot into his shots. He definitely does. When you watch his tape, he really looks to pop his opponents up. Now it's the fight game. You get hit with a good shot, man, it could put anybody out, right? Any good shot could put anybody out. That is the only way I see Donovan Beard winning this fight. He has to land something big very early. Maybe Bo Nickal goes in for some type of takedown and Donovan somehow sees it, which I don't know how he's going to see it because Bo Nickal's transitions to his wrestling are ridiculously fast. But if he does somehow see it, or he just guesses and throws it randomly before and Bo runs into a knee or an uppercut or something and it hurts him, that is the only way I see Donovan Beard winning this fight. Other than that, you guys already know what time it is. Bo Nickal is going to get a hold of him, and he's going to absolutely smash him. I've seen Donovan Beard taken down in fights against lower level guys. I believe in the fight against Raheem Forrest, he was taken down a bit. I think he was also taken down in the Miles Lee fight. Now he came back and won that fight, but he was taken down in that fight. A fighter like Bo Nickal he's gonna get you down there, right? So again, I'm not gonna go too much in on Bo Nickal here. I want to put out a separate video. I want to talk about him more. I got some things I want to say, but I am on Bo Nickal to finish this fight in the first round via submission. He's gonna just be all over him. He's gonna start smashing him up with some ground and pound, and I think Donovan might open up a submission just trying to get out of there. Maybe a head and arm triangle. Maybe Brock Lesnar-esque when he took out Shane Carwin after getting pummeled in the first round. If you guys remember that fight. Something like that, but I see some type of power sub where Nickal just squeezes the life out of him, and Bo Nickal is the biggest prospect to ever come into the sport of MMA. Again, I'm really excited. I want to say a bunch of stuff about him, but I'm going to save it for this little Bo Nickal video that I'm going to put out here. It'll be a short little video, but I want to go over a couple things in regards to Bo Nickal. Now, from a betting perspective, not much to talk about here. Bo Nickal opened up at a -1,000. If your sports book even opened that line up, I'm sure it was very rare to even find that line. He's now a -1,800. You saw in his last fight, he closed at a -3,500. And I think that you're going to see this line continue to go towards that direction. I don't know if he'll hit that same 3,500 mark for the sheer fact that Donovan Beard is a more respected fighter compared to Zachary Borrego. I do believe that Donovan Beard is a step up. I expect to see this line maybe close around minus 2,500 or something like that. It's crazy. It's crazy the type of lines we're talking about here, and a guy that's only 2-0 as a pro in the sport of MMA. But again, for people that actually know how to think outside the box and understand the sport of MMA in its entirety, you cannot just go off someone's pro MMA record or their amateur record. You have to understand who they are in total, who they are, what they bring to the table, and whether you're a 3-time NCAA national champion wrestler, whether you're a world champion boxer or a Brazilian jiu-jitsu stud. You know what I mean? Say, for example, excuse me here. Come on. Name slip in my mind. It's going to drive me nuts. I mean, my memory, it's getting late over here. Gordon Ryan, right? Gordon Ryan, who is known to be, who in fact actually has a grappling match against Bo Nickal. You can pull that up on YouTube as well. You can pull the entire matchup. But Gordon Ryan is known to be the greatest grappler of all time. He's the GOAT. I mean, people that know the sport widely refer to him as the GOAT. Joe Rogan, all those types of guys. He's still only 27 years old. If he were to come over to the sport of MMA, forget about it. I mean, if he were to come over to the sport of MMA, I don't care how far along his striking has came around up to that point. He's going to be a giant favorite. I mean, these guys are different types of fighters. They're different types of. They're a different type of breed. These guys, man. We're talking about the cream of the crop. And just wanted to mention, shout out to Gordon Ryan. This guy is a beast. I know he's flirted with saying he wants to have one MMA fight before it's all said and done. I don't know. I'm not really holding my breath over here. But that's gonna wrap up to today's episode. And listen. Catch me on Instagram. I'll be watching the fights, man. Shoot me a message. I'm on Instagram at MMA Fortune Teller _. I would love to hear from you guys. I'll be tweeting nonstop, but my tweets have really stepped up. I'm tweeting all the time. Man, I need to get a green tea over here. It's getting late. Filming this at 1 a.m. Thursday night. Excuse me, guys. But catch me on Twitter at the MMA Teller, where I'm constantly throwing tweets at you guys. And of course, I hope you guys are subscribed to the channel here already. Hit that like button on your way out. I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. I always like to say that because it's true. I truly appreciate all you guys that tune into the show regularly. You guys make this whole product here, this whole thing, and I got much love for all you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy the last episode of this season. And again, DWCS will be picking right back up not too long. You guys know how it goes these days. All right. So on that note, signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA Fortune Teller. Yeah.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.